Jesus said, I have come that they might have life and have it abundantly. I think as Christians we've heard that. The problem is we've tended to spiritualize it so much that we've forgotten that Jesus really was talking about this life, not just life after death. The question is, what is abundant life? And I've come to the conclusion that abundant life has to do with joy, that deep inner sense of confidence and of peace and satisfaction that is a gift of God. And there are practices, biblical, historical practices, that throughout the centuries Christians have exercised to be grounded in this inner joy. The marks of discipleship simply are ways of expressing that. It's not a checklist of things that you and I do to prove that we're super Christian. Rather, they are practices that help us get connected more deeply with our God and what we truly believe. We've divided up chapter 4 into 2 sessions. The first really has to do with the vertical relationship that we have with God. And those 3 practices are daily prayer, regular worship, and daily reading of Scripture. Daily prayer is a conversation with God. You know, no matter how you are in love with someone else, that love will fade unless you're able to have daily interaction with that person. And so it is with our God. God invites us to be in conversation with God, and then to come together in the Christian community. I am an unabashed advocate for weekly worship. Worship, the opportunity of coming together with other Christians and celebrating this wonderful gift we have in Jesus Christ. And then the reading of Scripture, which is for many of us the most difficult of these personal practices. My suggestion, start with the book of Mark and just read. When something touches you, stop, reflect on it. If something confuses you, ignore it. Pray over it perhaps, but then keep reading. Allow God to speak to you through the reading of the Scripture. I believe that abundant life begins with a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. It's an interesting thing, this life of discipleship. The more we practice it, the more the benefits really are ours. That's not surprising if you think, for example, of a great athlete. The more he or she trains, the more able they are to excel at the gifts God has given them. The same way with musicians. A great musician will grow in his or her ability to communicate through their gifts as they practice. And so it is for us as Christians. And we practice first those vertical practices that grow us deep in God. But have you noticed that when we get closer to God, God invites us into closer relationships with others. And so there is the horizontal, if you will, relational practices of the last 3 marks of discipleship. To serve others both within and beyond the congregation, to relate with others for spiritual growth, and to give a tithe or beyond. As we relate to other people, we begin to discover how God comes to us in the relationship. And this real faith for real life begins to happen in the normal interactions of our lives. As we serve, we discover the image of God within us. Every human being has been created with the need to serve. And as we serve, we discover the power of joyful living. Giving a tithe or beyond is really an invitation to grow generosity out of hearts of gratitude. You've heard me say, perhaps, I've known a few misers in my life. I've never known a happy miser. And it's absolutely true. Once we begin to share of what God has given us, it's amazing the wealth we discover we already have. And so the invitation for the marks of discipleship is not simply for you to grow deeper with God, but for you then to take that relationship out into your real life and impact the lives of others. God invites you and me to leave a legacy of grace through our lives. That's worth living for.